Welcome to From the Trenches, success shortcuts revealed by real world innovators crushing it right now. I'm your host, Scott Hartley, and we're back with another episode packed with actionable strategies from today's most successful entrepreneurs. If you're tired of generic business advice and ready for real cutting edge tactics that are working right now, you're in the right place. Now, my guest today says that almost everything she's learned about leadership, she learned from dogs. What was that? Like you learned about leadership from dogs? Well, I think you're going to find this conversation really interesting. And, we're going to be touching on a lot of different topics that she's learned throughout the years from what many people might think is kind of a mundane type of business, a dog boarding business. For example, my guess, she's learned how to stand out in a crowded market so that you can attract the right clients. She's figured out how to command premium rates for top tier services without hesitation or guilt. I think we all could learn from that. And through some bad experiences, she's even cracked the code on how to build a reliable team and spotting the red flags of potential employees who may try to sabotage your success, and so much more. So let me introduce you to Erin Schnute. She is the founder and owner of Bed Barkfest, a boutique dog boarding business that offers a warm, home-based alternative to cold, caged commercial options. Built on premium care and personalized service, Bed Barkfest ensures that dogs receive individual attention, routine, and plenty of love while their owners travel with peace of mind. Erin, I'm so excited to have you on today.
Hey, it's good to be here.
So, as we were kind of riffing before, once I read all the information that you put on the application to be on the podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be an interesting discussion because I love pets. And just everything that you shared of what you've learned throughout your years of business, I think there's some gold nuggets that our listeners are going to really be able to extract from our conversation today. But first, I'd kind of like to get a little bit of your backstory. Like, how did you, get into having a dog boarding business? What kind of sparked that interest? And then we'll kind of go from there.
I love that question because this is not at all what I envisioned when I started my entrepreneurship journey. Always a favorite story of mine. I actually was planning on buying and flipping houses. I did that one time through and it was fun and I was sort of done. So I was looking for different options. At that time, I had been with a lot of my dogs for a while already, but in a side hobby capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Right around then, a very handsome guy who's now my husband and I were starting to save up for a house and a wedding. And I was like, hey, why don't you watch some of these dogs with me? I bet we can do more if we team up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we did team up. We bought the house. Paid for the wedding. About a year into that, I looked at him. I was like, I think I could do this, like for real, do this. And he was like, yeah, well, go for it. Let's see. And within a year, we were out earning his salary,
Oh,
and
wow.
the rest, came from there.
Very awesome. Yeah. So have you always, had like a dog as a pet, or have you always had, like interest in animals, or what's kind of like sparked that?
Yeah, I have always loved dogs. I had a family dog growing up who was a troublemaker and taught us a lot. A lot. Kind of the story that a lot of people in dogs learn is, oh, that dog was difficult, so I had to learn more. I was also a big part of childcare,
Mm-hmm.
so I nannied for many years throughout college and different spaces like that. And I learned that those two skills go hand in hand. And if someone trusts you with their kid, they might trust you with their dog. Like the
Uh-huh.
barrier to trust already starts
Right.
there. Caretaking was really a big piece of my personality. I think a lot of women come into a space where they naturally are caretakers, but if you also have the entrepreneurial spark, you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
have the two be separated out.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I had, both dogs and cats kind of growing up, but mostly dogs. And then I had, my own dog, and then he eventually passed away. And then, now I've got some cats, and I kind of like them a little bit better because you don't have to take care of them near as much. Whereas the dogs, you have to walk them and all that. But I still love dogs, to this day. My parents have one. So, and you're in the Detroit area, is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. So, one of the things that you mentioned is that you've learned over the years how to stand out in a crowded market. So, how many other competitor type businesses are there in your region?
Well, for example, my favorite way to put this is since 2020, dog ownership has increased over 45%,
Hmm.
but boarding options like mine or sitting has grown about 3%.
Okay.
So there's this huge need in the area. So traditional kennels are not even able to keep up.
Oh, wow.
But I would say those have been a big competitor of mine. And in the past couple of years, because of this boom in dogs, we now have a lot of what I like to call hobbyist sitters coming to the market as well. And so
Hmm.
it's seeming like an oversaturated market, but if you look at everybody's wait list, so far it's not oversaturated. I really love actually seeing more people coming to the market, even if they came a little behind us. We've got a lot of community over competition here in Metro
Hmm.
Detroit. So there's a couple of other folks who are doing things at a really similar pace as me, but just a couple of years behind, and there's more than enough dogs for all of us.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and with animals, kind of explosive growth and everybody's, getting those, there's always, enough business to go around. What are some of the things that that you've learned that helps you stand out from, other people, like the hobbyist, for example, or maybe more of a standard kenneling or boarding place?
Yeah, so a big piece of that is how to create your story, and social media gives us so many opportunities to talk about that story. So I can talk about the folks who came to me because they had a terrible kennel experience. I wish I had way less of those stories, but it is all too common. I can tell the story of a dog coming through my door to getting to be more confident, to playing with dogs, to um, really thriving while their humans are away. And a lot of dogs really shut down and struggle when their parents are traveling. So
Hmm.
being able to paint that story for anybody who's struggled really sets us apart. In the dog industry, I think it's all too common for folks to come into this industry who don't particularly like people. I
Hmm.
can't hardly blame them when dogs are better. But I think what differentiates me and all of my sitters is that we see people first and know that caring for their dog means we're caring for their family,
Hmm.
and creating that peace of mind through the stories. Those are on our social media, and even when they're away, instead of just having your dog ate, your dog did this. We send pictures and videos, and we engage with them. We're like, oh my gosh, I love that your dog did this silly thing that you've probably seen too. So this is a time for stories and for engaging. I have Irish roots. It was just St. Patrick's Day.
Hmm.
Nothing like story to draw people in and make yourself stand out at the same time. And it can be telling your own story, but also their story. People like
Hmm.
hearing their own story repeated back to them.
Yeah, no, that's a very creative idea of, taking what you would normally do is like, hey, we fed your dog, we let him out to exercise and everything, but really making it fun about that because, just as much as the dogs probably miss their owners, while they're gone, the owners also have that sense of guilt. It's like, we're putting our dog in a kennel and we're away from them for this period of time. And so when they can kind of have that interaction through those stories, through those videos, those pictures and things, it totally transforms how they're thinking about being away from their pet, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So standing out, in a market where you've got a lot of different competition, another thing that you mentioned is that you've, figured out how to command premium rates for top tier services. But I like, how you added on to that without hesitation or guilt. And so, when I'm having conversations with a lot of business owners, one of the suggestions that's often given is, hey, you need to increase your prices or you need to create a high ticket package or program or whatever it is that they're offering. And so many people are hesitant about that. And I think, obviously it has to do with a lot of mindset. Tell us like your journey in that process and how you've become more comfortable with that.
Yeah, I like to call myself like a closeted introvert. I act like an introvert at every networking event I need to go to. But at the end of the day, I was the quiet kid in the back of the classroom. And so the start of that journey was just reading all these books, listening to podcasts like yours, and realizing that's been repeated over and over and over by the people who are already successful. So I knew there was something to it. I had to get my head and my heart to connect on that.
Hmm.
And in my journey, I started out, I was one of the cheaper people because it was, just an accidental side hobby, like, oh yeah, I'll drop in on your dog. I didn't know as much then. I didn't know about the industry. I've done a ton with dog trainers. I've learned, I've created a craft that I'm so proud of that I know it's not the cheapest thing you can get out there. And if you're somebody whose dog who wants like their brother's kids, boyfriends, uncles, friend to watch their dog for a beer and a pizza, great, that might work for your family. But what
Mhm.
I bring to the table is a team of sitters who are just going to go above and beyond. And I know our market so well
Mhm.
that I know what we bring to the table is creating value for these families. So if I'm not right for you, that's okay. You and your dog, I can send you a list of other people and places to go. But when I know who's right for us and who I serve, they come to us faster, sooner, quicker. And learning to be proud of everything you put into your work and
Mhm.
knowing that you're going to give the best service makes it makes it more simple to say, yes, this is what we cost. If it's right for you, come on in, join the family. If it's not right for you, we love you. Tell your dog I said hi.
Yeah. Yeah. I love, like, what you shared there is that your value. You know the value that you're bringing to your clients, and you're able to, let go of like, oh, I have to have this business, or, that just everybody that walks in the door is like, oh, that's somebody we have to, close and make sure that we're sitting their dog, but that you're bringing that value, and you've got a team of sitters that you've trained. So you've honed your craft, and you can explain that, very well to prospective clients, right? This is what we do. This is how we're different from from somebody else who's out there doing, the same similar type of work.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because in that, so I've been doing this officially as Bed and Barkfest for 7 years now, and then it was a
Okay.
hobby before that. Oakland County, which is the Metro Detroit area, has a very wealthy area and has kind of fringes all over. And I thought by bringing this to the table that I would appeal mostly to wealthy people. And I realized it's less about how much money you have and how much value you have in your dog or this service. So if I'm not the right type of service for you, you can have, your own jet and be flying off to take a vacation, and I might not be the right fit. Or you
Hmm.
might be a teacher who, sadly, teachers are terribly underpaid. We all know that.
Right.
But you see the value and you have that relationship with your dog, and we're right. So it's been really interesting to me to learn that it's not just about the dollar, but it's about the value that we bring and we provide. And so that also helps with that confidence of we can bring value to so many different people.
Yeah. So, how did you get to the point where you understood what the value is that you bring to your customers? Because I feel like a lot of small business owners, they kind of have this, vague sense of like, well, this is what I do for them, but they don't fully understand, how to translate into this is the value that I bring.
I think a piece of that is that unfortunately it's all too common that I get people after they've had the horror story. So
Mm.
like if you've taken your dog to a kennel and some of them call themselves a dog hotel or a spa or like they've got a lot of names, but they are a big building that puts hundreds of dogs into a room that is a kennel.
Mm.
Knowing what they have paid, they pay slightly less per day than here, let's say, like you can look at the numbers, they're paying less per day. But if they have a dog that's been injured, if they have a dog who was never the same after, if they have a dog who ended up in surgeries, I was able to identify the fact that I can send a dog peacefully back home, and
Hmm.
just through their stories, because as I mentioned before, I love a story. I was able to see that I was doing something different, and people really wanted more of it.
Hmm.
And you know, I like to think that I will look at the market and be technical about it, but I really, at the end of the day, look at the people. And I do the nerdy side as well, but the people told me their stories, and I said, I can fill this gap, and I can fill it better, and I can fill it with a couple more people.
Hmm.
And through those stories, I really knew that we had something special here.
Yeah. I love the fact that you keep going back to, that it's people that you're working with, that you're serving, and that you're using and kind of getting into those stories. Because when it comes to all things marketing, it's how do we relate to people, whether it's B2C or B2B, we're dealing with other humans, right? And so whenever we can relate to that person, and they can understand us and we can understand them, both people feel understood. And then when you use stories, like that just solidifies the deal. It just, really brings that connection together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I know that a lot of what you are doing in your business kind of falls under the banner of leadership, and we talked about this, and in the intro I said that you mentioned that everything that you've learned about leadership has come from dogs. Tell me more about that. Like, how did that materialize? How did these leadership skills come from dogs?
I love the idea of what leadership looks like in the dog world. We have this like antiquated story that we hear about an alpha being in charge and like being kind of strict and harsh. If you look at the actual science behind wolves and dogs, you realize that in a healthy pack, they're a lot more like a family.
Hmm.
And so I can be outside walking three Great Danes, my two big 70-pound dogs, and have about 500 pounds of dog following me calmly and confidently if I'm in the right headspace.
Hmm.
Um, Versus coming into this headspace of like, you better listen to me and I'm going to do this. And all the energy that I thought you needed to bring into business because of TV or because of, tropes about who runs a business. It really started to click to me that if I could have a Rottweiler feel calm, collected, and walking through because I was mindful, because I was looking out for their needs, because I was creating trust between me and the dog and a leash, that I could actually lead a pack. And as I grew in the business, I realized I didn't need to be the loudest person in the room to create an impact or to be a leader. And I was never wanting to be the loudest person in the room. So I thought maybe I would like work for somebody else because I didn't want to be loud.
Hmm.
But as I learned, the dogs who need that same quiet leader who has the best of intentions, who looks at them as individuals, those skills actually worked really well for leadership. So my team knows they can come chat with me and give me their idea, tell me their needs. Hey, I'm really feeling like the dogs are struggling on the first day. What can I do? And if you listen more than you speak, same as with a dog, you're going to be able to create a space where you actually walk people to where they want to go. You help them hit their goals.
Hmm.
I guess it's been a nice journey for me to see that I have leadership skills that fall into a quieter, softer nature,
Hmm.
and that in actual nature, those are the most successful leaders as well.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting, observing, how you lead a pack of dogs and being able to figure out like, oh, these are the same skills that if I apply those in my relationships and communication with humans, I'm going to get the same type of behavior, from the humans that are following me as well.
Yeah, and it helps you dive into your own true nature too. Like the world will tell you, some people do struggle with anxiety, but the world will tell you it's full of anxiety, it's full of trouble, it's full of this. You have to stay busy. Dogs will remind you that if you're too busy while you're walking them, they're gonna go chase a squirrel and be off, be crazy alongside you. So I really find that they also ground me to that reminder day in and day out. Because I walk a lot of dogs. You can look at my step count where that is something, even as the CEO, I never want to stop walking the dogs. I love it.
Hmm.
It reminds me how to keep pace with the world in a way that's sustainable and truly takes everyone further.
Yeah. No, that's really awesome. Now, how many employees do you have working for you right now?
So we have a team of 3 employees, and then we have 25 contract workers.
Oh,
So we
wow.
bring in folks who are in the pet sitting industry. We sponsor specific education, and then we really help give them the leads that they need to be successful.
Okay. So you've got a lot of opportunities to really lead in different ways because, with employees versus contractors, that's, requires a little bit of a different leadership, style, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's really awesome. Now, when it comes to leadership as well, something else that you mentioned is that you've created a culture of growth without burnout. And one of the things that you mentioned is that you've built systems that allow you to grow while still making for time for the things that you love. Share with us a little bit about that and how that looks for you and for your employees.
Yeah, I was fascinated one day. One of the earliest books I read on systems, it was um, Pumpkin Plan Your Business. He always has odd titles, but he has a couple of them, Toilet Paper Entrepreneur.
Uh
But one
huh.
of his examples, he says, if you have a business plan and it can be as succinct as the little piece of paper in the back of the airplane that tells you how to get off of a plane. That piece of paper is designed to get everybody off of a plane safely in case of an emergency. It's designed to work whether you speak English or don't speak English, whether you're strong or you're not strong. And they have to get to the point really quickly on a one-page little pamphlet in the back of the airplane seat. And he says, if you can't describe and boil your business down to that, you're never going to be able to repeat it and scale it. And so for me, it was like, how do I simplify, so that as I kind of move past certain steps, somebody can come in and work with me and grow with me. I'm a classic ADHD, like I will hyperfixate on something new and shiny. And so to counterbalance that while I'm getting excited about something, I want to make sure that I can create a system to make it repeatable so that we can sustainably all grow as a team versus just constantly having every ball up in the air.
Yeah, systems is so important, but a lot of times, we get stuck because it's, as we're starting a business, especially, a lot of times we're the only one doing the things in the business, and we're like, oh, I don't have time to document how I'm, making things happen so that you can then hand that off to somebody else as you grow. But what has that meant for you? Like, you mentioned that it gives you time for things that you enjoy doing. How has that kind of like transformed over the 7 years that you've been in business?
Yeah, I've learned that if I want to hold on and do everything myself, I will also explode. I think anyone in the entrepreneurship world has either gotten to burnout or gotten a lot closer than they want to admit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I brought in last year my operations manager. She's super into systems, and it's really been eye-opening to me to see how much I can take off my plate and still be successful. We had our best quarter. We're already at our best quarter to date, and we're not even all the way through this month. And it dawned on me maybe a year or two ago that if I'm constantly waiting for that next big thing, I'm not actually going to enjoy my life getting to that next big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make time to be healthy and work out and walk the dogs. I want to make time to be creative and find balance. I want to take time to travel and go see the world. And if we're constantly waiting for, okay, once I make this much, I will go enjoy my life, then we're never really going to be satisfied or happy.
Right. Yeah, it's always, that next thing that we've got to get to before we, give ourselves that reward. Now, in growing, your team throughout the years, one of the things that you mentioned is that you've invested a lot of time and energy into people who ultimately plan to take everything you taught them and kind of call it their own stuff. And you mentioned that it's kind of one of those situations where you're a giving person, you want to help other people. It kind of almost becomes a fault, and then you get taken advantage of. What's some of the lessons that you've learned there, and how are you now approaching? Because you've also mentioned that you now have a kind of a way that you can identify the red flags of people that may not be the right fit for your business.
Yeah, one of the things I love and know about myself is that for any person or dog, I can see their potential. I can see what they could become if they want to put their mind to it, if they're already there. I am an optimist when it comes to people. And I didn't want to give that up when I felt burned.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to grapple with that a little bit. So in a couple of pieces that I did to really secure where to share, when to share, how to share, is I went to people who do this for a living. So like maybe a little bit earlier, I should have gone to a lawyer, but once I figured it out, I did. They come up with contracts, they have the jargon, and a good lawyer is also really good at breaking it down to somebody who's not a lawyer. So I
Mm-hmm.
highly recommend having somebody who can communicate that well. So I kind of set the groundwork a little bit better. I had some paperwork before, it wasn't as strong as I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I looked at my strengths and went, okay, I've got some people on my team already who are I'm going to call this out. I have a gut reaction about people. I have, that's their skill set, that discernment, or that like I notice these things ahead of time that could be a flaw.
Mm-hmm.
And now when we bring someone onto our team, there's like two people they go through before me. So
Mm-hmm.
I have like my gut check people help me with that. And in that they talk with me through things. We look at the the red flags together. I don't want to just stay ignorant to what isn't or isn't going to work,
Hmm.
but I put that trust in people who have shown that they're loyal to me and that can show me where those red flags are. We had our most recent big hiring group in November. We go through like a period with them to see if it's going to be a good fit. They work with our trainers, things like that. And
Hmm.
this has been our most consistent group of folks. It really has been eye-opening to me to see what the green flags look like when they're in play, and to
Yeah.
see people who are like excited not only about Bed and Barkfest, but see that we're excited about them too. Because I've
Hmm.
never wanted to like, oh, I'm going to work people till they're bleeding. That's not our model here. But finding those right fits because I put those steps in place and have those gut checks helping me has just created a team that I couldn't be more proud of.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I love the fact that you mentioned that you're not just relying on yourself to be, like, oh, okay, I should hire this person or I shouldn't hire this person. You're getting other people's perspectives and, giving them the opportunity to, to basically interview, potential candidates. And that way you've got, more of a balanced view and you can kind of see, you might, they may see something that you're kind of blinded to that you wouldn't, normally notice, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, something else that you've done, and I've not really, in most of my conversations, I've not heard of anybody that's done this, but you mentioned that you've built out a certification program, which I've never even heard of that in, the dog boarding, the kennel industry. Tell me more about what that certification program looks like. How did you come up with the idea to do that, and how's that beneficial for you?
So there are certification programs in the pet world. I like to let people know there are no certifications in the dog training world that are legally binding, and there's
Hmm.
no requirements in the pet sitting world that are like you have to have this. It's not like you go to a hairdresser and they have to have a certain license or certification to touch your hair. That
Hmm.
does not exist in the animal world.
Okay.
So when I started looking at these certifications, the one I use currently is called National Association of Professional Pet Sitters. One of the best things about that, when I take those tests, I can buy into an insurance company that insures pet sitters all across the country, right? That's a
Hmm.
huge asset because if you talk to a commercial person near me, they're like, what do? You have dogs in cars, you have dogs in houses, you're going into their houses. They don't really want to touch my insurance. Um,
Right.
but in my 7 years of doing this, I found a couple of things. One, all of these certifications make you learn about every animal under the sun. And I love every animal under the sun, but we do not serve every animal under the sun. Please don't bring me your bunnies or your birds. I take a test every 3 years to make sure that I'm certified to be able to watch them.
Hmm.
Um, Two, I noticed that a lot of the dog world is divided into this like force-free and balanced training method. And I don't train dogs at all, but I do want to take care of dogs no matter how you train them.
Hmm.
So there was a big lack in how to help somebody. Like if somebody comes to me and their dog uses a prong collar, I want me and my sitters to know how to keep up what they've chosen to do with their dog.
Hmm.
And most certifications will lean only into a certain type of training. And I felt like it really alienated a lot of the clients who are a good fit here.
Hmm.
People who are like, I have this dog that I love, but I use this training method. Are you going to yell at me? And I'm like, no, look how happy your dog is. Look at what you're doing. So I came together with some trainers and I was like, listen, I want to make sure that we are a cut above, that we're taking care of these dogs and serving the people behind them.
Hmm.
And then truly, I am a little bit of a nerd. So as soon as I start doing something, I'm like, oh, I can write all about this. I can create the book behind it. I can make sure everyone feels good about it. And in my reading, I learned that a certification program can be a great way to help equip other people so that they can be successful as well, whether that's people on my team now or people who are just interested in personally, I think, doing this the right way, doing this in a way that serves other people and that puts the dog and the owner in the safest positions possible.
So you actually took, a lot of these ideas from other places and you saw where the gaps and everything were, and then you turned, you filled your own certification program with, some of the other stuff that was out there, but also, these gaps that you saw and said, hey, we need to also include this in our program. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're still certified in other places. one of the things that all of our sitters commit to is education, because I don't think there's a cap to how much you can learn about dogs. So
Hmm.
this, I feel like, comes alongside really nicely with a lot of education that's out there.
Yeah. So is the certification program, is that kind of like another facet of your business? Do you offer that to dog sitters, across the country, and they can become certified through you, or how does that look for in your business?
For 2025, you have to be in Bed and Barkfest to do this certification program, but our
Okay.
goal is by 2026 to be able to open those doors so that dog sitters, dog boarders, dog vets, anybody who wants to be able to handle dogs safely as not the dog owner will be able to
Hmm.
have access to this course.
That's awesome. So, I just kind of like that idea because, for a lot of business owners, I don't think that they think of the opportunity that exists of here's how we do things. Here's, we've got all of this other stuff that's out there, but it's not, everything that you really need to know. You having your own unique spin on it. And here's an opportunity to bolt on to your business potentially another, way to bring in revenue and another way to serve the world by creating a certification program that you feel is more fulfilling, more holistic, and very beneficial to people in your industry.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I know we're getting close to time here, and there's a lot of topics that we could talk about. Is there anything in relation to leadership or anything else in your business journey that you want to make sure that we share today?
Yeah, leadership can look so many different ways. And I think a piece of this key that helps you find your own voice in leadership is are what you is going to be the most honest way to check your mindfulness, to check your anxiety. I think walking a dog is probably the perfect way to learn how to be a better leader. But when you start to focus on your pack and what's going to benefit either the dog at the end of the leash or the team around you, you can make some really big strides together by just leaning into leadership being kind, leadership being confident, and leadership meaning that you can stay calm in the chaos so that everyone can come with you. And I think those are the three things that dogs need and the three things that people need. And when you can find that overlap, then you're going to find where you need to be a leader and where your voice can be used too.
Yeah, no, that's gold. And, and you don't have. I love the fact that you're kind of taking away that you don't have to have that strong personality or whatever that we typically think of leaders having. It's really just about being relational, right? With the people that we're interacting with and leading on a daily basis.
And a favorite quote of mine is there's nothing so strong as gentleness and nothing so gentle as real strength. And so knowing when strength is confused with ego or like bragging,
Hmm.
it's not strength anymore. And when strength is assured and confident and calm, and I believe also kind, then it can align with more people.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So I know that you've got a gift for our audience, our listeners. If you want to share a little bit about that and where people can grab a copy of it.
Yeah, so we've got the guide on how to navigate what's best for your dog. Not yet are we all over the country. We'd definitely love to be around for more places to serve your pups. But until then, I created a whole booklet on questions to ask whether you're going to a kennel, whether you're talking to a pet sitter, knowing that pet sitters should have insurance, for example. A lot of people don't even realize that that's an option for a pet sitter. One of my favorite questions to ask a kennel is, are the dogs left alone overnight? I think most people don't realize that an average or a common practice at a kennel is for people to leave at 7 p.m. or 9 p.m. and come back at 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. or 9 a.m. So
Hmm.
dogs can go 12 hours overnight without literally anybody in the room.
Oh, wow.
Um, and knowing what questions to ask means that you can find a fit for your dog wherever you are. There's even a section on should you travel with your dog? Like, because sometimes it's fun to take them with you, but what are the pieces you need to think about to make sure that trip is right for you and your pup? So
Yeah.
that download is on our website. You can also find it on our Instagram. It's www.bedandbarkfest.com, or similarly, go to Instagram and we are Bed and Barkfest.
Okay, awesome. Well, I know that, I'm sure that, there's a lot of dog lovers and, dog owners listening to this podcast. So this would be a great resource if you want to make sure that you're choosing the right, dog sitter, the right kennel for the next time that your pet needs to have somebody else take care of him or her while you're gone. So, well, Erin, I really appreciate your time here today. You have shared a lot of great nuggets in just your 7 years of being in business and just things that you've learned. Really appreciate your time today. And so, again, pick up your free guide, How to Pick the Right Dog Care. We'll make sure that the link is in the show notes, just in case you're in a spot where you can't write down the website, but it should be fairly memorable, bedandbarkfest.com. And if you're looking to supercharge your email marketing, check out my book, Hit the Inbox, at hittheinboxbook.com. It's packed with 76 pages of strategies to get your emails landing in inboxes and driving sales. Thanks for tuning in today. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform. It helps us reach more entrepreneurs like you. And until next time, keep crushing it in the trenches.